You're listening to the weekly Parsha Podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel 5785, 2025. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Korach, and I'd like to share with you a thought that has to do with the end of the Parsha. It does relate to the beginning. In the beginning of the Parsha, we have the whole story with Korach, his rebellion against Moshe, and the description of how, as a result of that, 250 people lost their lives from trying to bring the Ketairos, an incense offering. They were not the right people for that. Korach, all of his family, all those who decided or tried to fight with Moshe Rabbeinu, to try to wrest power away from him, they were lost. They fell into an opening in the earth, and they died. And the story continues, and the people are upset at Moshe. He killed them. Who killed them? He killed them. It seems he created this miracle that occurred. They were not sure that it came from Hashem. Aaron has to be proven to be the right one. His staff is placed next to the other staffs of the Jewish people, of the leaders, and his staff is the one that grows in a miraculous way. Shkedim, almonds, brachim, flowers, and everyone sees the truth, but not before there's a terrible magefa, a loss of life. After that whole story, the psukim tell us about the matanos of the kahuna, the gifts that are given to the priests and to the Levim, to the Levites. And it seems that the Torah is trying to stress for us that after all is said and done, after the entire story, so Aaron is proven to be the one, and the Torah is giving him the gifts. And we'll see more about the concept of the gifts of the Kohanim and the Levim. What is the idea behind them? I'd like to read to you the psukim. It's in Perek Yud Ches, Pasuk Yud Tes. Kol Shumos HaKadoshim Asher Yarimu B'nei Yisrael Hashem. This is Hashem speaking to Aaron HaKohen. All of the gifts, the tithes of the holy offerings that Am Yisrael is going to separate for Hashem, I've given it to you, to your children, to your sons and daughters who are with you, as an eternal statute. Now, the language of this pasuk, I'd like to just notice, as we're about to read it, just take note here. Bris melach olam hi lifnei Hashem, l'chol zaracha itach. It's a covenant, and the language of the pasuk is a covenant of salt. Eternal salt. We'll have to see what this word means. Eternal salt was the idea. It is to you, in front of Hashem, for you and your children, your offspring with you. Rashi says, Bris melach, ki bris hakrus el she'ena masriach la'olam. We find that what's special about salt? What does it mean? A covenant of salt. And it's pointed out in the Meforshim that we find the word a covenant of salt elsewhere as well. It means a very strong covenant. What is salt? Salt, when you salt something, when you salt meat, let's say, or you pickle something, which is with salt, so the result is that the thing lasts. It doesn't go bad. It doesn't rot. So the pasuk is saying it's an eternal covenant that it will be there forever. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises Aaron and his sons that they're going to remain Kohanim, priests, and for all time they're going to have these gifts. One more pasuk I'd like to read. Vayomer Hashem al Aaron be'artzam lo tinchal. Interestingly, there's a promise to him, but the promise is also inclusive of another aspect, which is that they will not get a piece of land. They won't have an inheritance in the land of Israel. The Levim and the Kohanim are separated out from the rest of Am Yisrael. They don't get a portion in the land of Israel. And understand that a portion in the land of Israel means Eretz Yisrael is the dream of Am Yisrael. It's the place where we fulfill our purpose most perfectly. So it sounds like a bad thing. The Kohanim and the priests, the Kohanim and the Levim do not have any portion in Israel, which sounds like they don't have a portion the inheritance of Am Yisrael. What does that mean? So Hashem says, don't think that. Ani chelkecha v'nachalascha b'seich b'nei Yisrael. I am your portion. I am your inheritance amongst the people of Israel. So whereas it's true that whoever has a piece of Eretz Yisrael is promised a true connection, a true future, whoever has a portion in the land of Israel has a portion in the world to come. So that's true, but that's kind of a superficial. I don't want to say superficial because it's also spiritual, but it's more of an outer aspect of what the person will be for all time, what they accomplish if their focus is on Eretz Yisrael. The deeper focus is, of course, within Eretz Yisrael. It's in the Mikdash, in the Har HaBayis, on the Temple Mount, inside of the Holy of Holies. It's the Kohanim, it's the priests, it's also those who learn Torah. That's also Kimitzion Teitzei Torah. But it's there in Eretz Yisrael. Hashem says, I am your portion. I am your portion in midst the children of Israel. So I want to point out the word ani. As we'll see in the Rabbeinu Bachai, we're going to read our Rabbeinu Bachai together. Very deep idea, very deep piece in the Rabbeinu Bachai. As I read the Parsha and as I thought about the Parsha, I wanted to kind of not focus so much on the story of Korach. The story of Korach is very challenging, very difficult, just utter destruction for a group of people. It's so sad. I want to focus more on the positive aspect that comes out of it, and we'll see that it's related to what seems to be a negative concept as well, which is when people who aren't chosen to be that try to break through and be something that they're not. It's important to know that concept is true and real, that people who try to be something that they're not, they get destroyed. But I want to focus on the people who are trying to be who they are, which is the Leviim and the Kohanim, and what's the aspect of that, where's the concept of that, and let's see that together. I'd like to read you from the Rabbeinu Bachai. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here. I don't know if we'll have enough time to get through all of it, but there's a lot of concepts here, and we'll try to understand the depth of what's going on. Al derech hapshat, bris krusa. It's very interesting. When we have a covenant, what is a covenant? A covenant is like a deal. It's a Hashem says to Avram Avinu, you're going to be special. I'm making a covenant with you. You're going to have to go through certain difficulties and challenges, 400 years in Gullus and in exile. Your kids are going to be strangers in a strange land. They're going to be oppressed. But eventually they're going to come out and they're going to get Eretz Yisrael. There's a bris krusa. So the word bris is a covenant, it's a deal, it's a commitment. But the word is krusa, which means cut. You cut a deal. Right? We cut a deal. Hashem cuts a deal with Am Yisrael. So what is this language of cutting? That's what we're going to try to cut through here to try to understand. He says, Ki makam hamelach nikras, right? The cutting that's going on here, it's also referred to as a covenant of salt. What is a salt covenant? So we said a pshat from Rashi that it means salt is something that helps things to last and not rot. But he says another thing. It has to do with cutting. Right? When you cut something, it's defined and it's clear. Ki makam hamelach nichras. Let's say you want to make a border around your property. This is not what he says, but I'm just kind of giving the idea. You want to make a border around your property. This is where my property ends. Don't plant anything here if you're my neighbor. So what you do is you take salt and you salt the earth. And you salt the earth all around the area that you want to remain your area. That spot, wherever there is salt, it won't grow. Salt prevents things from growing. It defines areas. We find that when we speak about a land that's not going to be lived in, it's salty land. Gafris v'malach sreifa kol arts. So the pasuk says about what happens in Eretz Yisrael when we defy Hashem's will. It becomes sulfur and brimstone and salt. Salt. The earth is burned. Nothing will grow there. So salt is something that defines and limits. So when you have a bris kurus, a bris melach, it means you have something that's defined and clear. You have an absolute covenant that's clear and defined. These are the borders. These are the limitations. This is what it looks like. Stay within these bounds. So he tells us, based on a deeper idea called Kabbalah, which you've heard the word Kabbalah, but it means a deeper idea. But let's try to understand this. Bris melach olam hi yoimar. What does it mean when it says that it's an eternal salt covenant? Ki abris melach olam hi kloimar kiyum habasar. He says something that sounds like Rashi. He says that what causes the flesh to remain, for it to not rot, it's salt. Okay, so it's something that causes, on one hand, the bris krusa is a well-defined, clearly defined covenant, and has limitations, and it means there's going to be hard times, maybe. I mean, so has to go through hard times to get to the good times. Think about what's happened over the last few weeks. We have to go through the hard times to get to the good times. And at the same time, that's what defines us. That's what keeps us. That's what allows the meat not to rot. Okay? And he says something interesting. V'hamelach ikare mayim ubekoyach hashemesh hashoyet olav nase melach. He says, how do you get salt? The way that you get salt is you take salt water. It's called desalinization. You take the salt water from the sea and you put it out to dry, and as the water evaporates, what's left is the salt that was inside of the water. Vimkein, yesh bekoach hamelach mayim ve'esh. So what it means is, if you want to look at salt, what is the root power, the root essence of salt? It's water and fire. Water is the salt water of the sea, and fire is the fire of the sun. So those two elements produce, and by the way, fire and water are obviously opposites, right? But they produce salt. Now bear with me. He says that when you have a covenant, so the covenant has two aspects. It has two things that define it. One is midas harachamim, which is compassion. I have a relationship with you now. I am in, we have a back and forth. There are things, however, there's midas hadin, there's the aspect of divine, I don't want to say retribution, that's not the right word here, divine justice, I would say. There's justice, there's definition here. If you have a relationship with me, so you can't violate the relationship. You have to be careful. If we are committed to each other, that means to the exclusion of others. Well, a man marries a woman, right? That means we are here together. It's me and you. We have a special relationship, and that comes with special privileges. But it also means that if you break through the borders, if you try to plant in the place where there's salt, and the salt defines the borders, so you're going to end up in trouble. So you have two aspects of this covenant. And by the way, think about it. Korach, they tried to cross the border. They tried to plant in the place where there was salt, and they were destroyed by that. So let's think about it in those terms as well. He says, this covenant is the salt of the earth, salt of the world, which means to say it's something that allows the world to continue to exist. Just like salt makes things not grow, it also makes things not rot. Okay? It allows the thing to remain. Because through this the world continues to exist, and the defined limitations remain. Wherever you have salt on the earth, so then nothing will grow there. He brings the pasuk which I mentioned earlier. So it's a place where nothing can grow, but it also is a place which causes things to stay and not rot. So you have a concept. The concept of salt is a dual concept. The same thing it causes things not to grow is the same thing that allows things to last and not depreciate in their ability to stay. So you have the two concepts, each the opposite of the other. The salt represents two opposite concepts: inability for life to remain and the ability to keep life, to keep things alive. And he says, and bear with me here, some of the concepts are a little bit maybe not as interesting, it's not clear exactly how they apply, but we'll see that they really do have to do with us. They really do have to do with us very, very much. He says we see within our Parsha, we have this concept of the matanos, the gifts that are given to the Levim and the gifts that are given to the Kohanim. And in this process, in this discussion, so Parsha Zilba deeper la'ar levada b'loshen vayidaber b'loshen vayomer. The pasuk uses two different languages when Hashem is speaking to Aaron. He says vayidaber, which is more of a tough language. Right? Vayidaber is the way that Hashem speaks to the men. Vayomer is the way Hashem speaks to the women who need more of a softer touch. But Aaron receives both of these languages. There's a toughness, which is the din, and there's a vayomer, which is the rachamim. Chukei atruma v'shar matanos shein bein kulan 24 shein beis Aaron amurim b'loshen vayidaber. All of the laws, all of the definition, all of the gifts that are given to the Kohanim, the 24 matnas kahuna. So there it says a lashon of vayidaber. Hashem spoke. Chukei hamaiser lebeis Levi amurim b'loshen vayomer. But when it comes to the house of Levi, the Levites, so they get meiser, they get 1/10. There uses a language of vayomer. Interestingly, he says the aspect of the Kohen, as you already know, which I guess he's explained elsewhere. It's in Parshas Bo, Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Aleph. It says here in the notes. It denotes the concept of the Kohanim, and the word Vayidaber has to do with the Torah Shabbal Peh, the written law, which is more clear and defined. Okay, and the concept of Vayomer, the Levim, the Levites. I'm sorry. Umidas Halevi Torah Shabbal Peh Valkein Zachta Loitayra 24 Matanis Gehuna Keneged 24 Svarim. There are 24 books of the Torah, and corresponding to that, there are 24 matanos, there are 24 gifts that are given to them. This aspect. Okay, he goes through this as well. But I want to kind of skip a little bit here. He says, open the eyes of your heart. Open your hearts. Look how the pasuk says, we pointed this out earlier, and here's where we get to the concept. When it speaks about the concept of the Kohen, the inheritance of the Kohen, what does he get? He doesn't get a piece of land, but he gets Hashem, as it were. Hashem says, I am, ani chelkecha v'nachaloscha. He's speaking to Aaron, and he's saying, I am your portion, I am your inheritance. V'hu midas rachamim b'makam hazeh. Now the word ani, he points out, often is something which has to do with midas hadin. When Hashem says, I am Hashem, it means Neman l'shalim schar. Hashem is saying, if you want to know if it's going to, don't mess with me, almost like, right? It says, Ani Hashem. It means Hashem is saying, watch out. Usually, that's what Ani means. But the word Ani here is used as rachamim, it's used as compassion. We find elsewhere it's true. Am Yisrael is in the most difficult situation they can be in Egypt. They're slaves, they're being oppressed terribly, and Hashem says, Ani shamati, I heard their call. That's what he says to Moshe Rabbeinu. So, with what does it mean? I think what he's saying is that ordinarily Midas Hadin means the attribute of divine justice. means that, hey, watch out, this is what happens to Korach, and this is what happens to all those who came with him. They were finished. They tried to cross the borders. It was bad news for them. Ordinarily, judgment can be very difficult and damaging, and who can stand up to Hashem's judgment? But this is amazing, because we just went through an incredible time of judgment. We're still in a time of judgment. But throughout this war, the 12 days, it was so challenging. It was so difficult. I could tell you my own experience. Here we were in our house. All the kids were home. There was no school. Okay, a certain air of vacation, but at the same time, an air of fear. There could be a siren at a moment's notice. The phone is buzzing in the middle of the night, 5 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 1 in the morning, 7 in the morning. And you run to your mamad. You don't even know. There's going to be missiles, ballistic missiles by the hundreds shot at us. So it was a difficult time. Very difficult time. And coming out of that, there's still post-trauma going on. But there's such a relief. There's such a relief. So we're inside of the din and we're seeing, wow, yes, there were terrible things that happened. Yes, there was destruction. Yes, there were people who passed, who were killed. But at the same time, so much rachamim, so much compassion, so much light, so many miracles. And we come out the other end and we say, how did we merit this? How do we merit this? But it seems to me that Am Yisrael today is in a different place than we were at the beginning of this October 7th war. We're in a different place. We've been inside of the din for so long. We've changed. I think that we've changed. Not all of the change can be seen so clearly on the surface, but there's so much going on behind the scenes. So much has changed. Wherever we are, throughout the world, so much has changed. We've become different. The Levim are chosen because of their specialness. And I don't know if we'll have time so much to get into it, but I'll just give you a little preview of it. He talks about the fact, the Rabbeinu Bachai talks about the fact that when Yaakov Avinu said, whatever I have, I'm going to give you a tenth. So that's what he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as he was on his way to Haran, running away from Lavan. And he had 12 kids. 2 of them we removed because they were already Bechor. Ruvain, Bechor, Yosef, Bechor, but then you have 10 left. And if you count backwards, so number 10 is Levi. That's what he says. Maybe I got the cheshbon, didn't do it exactly right. If you count backwards, it's Levi. Maybe if we don't take off those 2. Levi is the Meiser of Am Yisrael. He's the one that's taken off. He's the one that's designated to be special to Hashem. There's a special bris. There's a special covenant that's made with Levi. Am Yisrael is the Meiser of the world. We've spoken about this not long ago. Am Yisrael is the thing that's designated to Hashem out of all of the nations. Eretz Yisrael is designated to Hashem from all the lands. It's the special place to serve Hashem. But when something is designated, what happens is there's a bris kusa. There's a more defined, and we've spoken about this before, but there's a more defined relationship. I know from speaking to people in Chutz La'aretz, yes, I know that you guys were davening for us, that you were praying for us, and I know that you guys were out there and you were caring and you were feeling it. But at the same time, living in Eretz Yisrael and running to my mamad is just not the same. Not the same when you're not here. I know because there was an attack on Eretz Yisrael before Rosh Hashanah of the beginning of this year, of this Jewish year, and I was not home, and they were shooting at us, and I know how it felt. But my family was here, and it was difficult. But within the specialness, within that thing, there's a din, there's a strong definition and boundaries around it. And don't mess with the boundaries. It's very dangerous too. But at the same time, if you're inside of the boundaries, there's a deep rachamim, the same ani, the same statement, I am Hashem, which means, watch out, If you're inside of the boundaries, so then the Ani Hashem is all compassion. It's all love. It's all, I'm with you. This is a real relationship. Here we are. Just stay inside of the boundaries. This is what it means. This is what it means to be the Nachlas Hashem. The inheritance of Hashem. And Am Yisrael is also called the Nachlas Hashem. Am Yisrael, Hashem, Ani Chelkecha, Hashem says to the Levim, and as we quoted previously from the Rambam, anybody can be like the Levim. It's not just Shevet Levi Bilvad. All of us can choose to enter into this covenant with Hashem. And what the covenant looks like is a different type of relationship. You move to Eretz Yisrael, you feel... Oh. You move to Eretz Yisrael, that's my son calling. You move to Eretz Yisrael, and it's a different feeling here. If someone was visiting recently, or over the last 2 weeks, you felt it. But it's a different type of relationship. And my sister was sharing with me that there's a book that she was reading to her kids. It was made for kids, and it's this girl talking to the ballistic missiles. Sounds crazy, but it was actually beautiful. And she's saying, "You can't touch me because we have Torah, and we have mitzvahs, and we have all this connection to Hashem, and Hashem is protecting us from you." And it's true, and it's deeply true. If we're within the bounds of what it means to live in Eretz Yisrael, nothing could be better. That din is rachamim. You have that combination, which is what we kind of spoke about at the beginning, with the salt has two aspects. It has the aspect of definition, but it also has the ability to be mekayim, to give something the ability to last. It shouldn't rot. Am Yisrael has the salt. We have a covenant with Hashem, which is salt, a salt covenant, which means if we stay within the boundaries of what we're supposed to do, we have a promise. We're here forever. We're here in Eretz Yisrael forever. Am Yisrael lasts forever when we do what we're supposed to do. And when we get into a deeper place of connection, Eretz Yisrael, there's a deeper requirement of doing what's right. When we live in Eretz Yisrael, we have to be even more cognizant, even more committed to the Torah and the mitzvahs, as the Torah says itself. We saw it in Parshas Achrei Mos. The Eretz Yisrael can spit out its inhabitants if we don't act properly in Eretz Yisrael. If we aren't pure in our relationships, interestingly, in our man-to-woman relationships. Which means to say, that's salt. You have the dual aspect. You have the din, and you have the rachamim inside of it. And you have the Leviim, and you have the Kohanim. And each of them have an aspect of din with the rachamim inside of it. As he speaks about it at length as he continues, and I'm out of time. But what I take out of this, and what I believe that we all need to take out of this, is we need to know who we are. We need to know about our covenant. We need to know about our relationship with Hashem. And that relationship is full of love. That relationship is full of rachamim, full of compassion. Miracles. Miracles that we can only say, Haidul Hashem ki toiv ki l'olam chazdoi. God is so great. He's done so much for us, and He's protecting us and taking care of us. But that same rachamim, that same compassion that He's having on us is machayev. It obligates us to make sure that our relationship with Him is proper, and that our boundaries are proper, and that we're doing things right. Especially if we live here in Eretz Yisrael. And especially if you want to be able to have that zchus. I want to bless you and ask you to bless me. Hashem should help us that we should recognize the incredible racham, the incredible kindness. Hashem should help us to merit that kindness. To be able to stay within the bounds of that which is right. And that which is exactly who He wants us to be. Hashem should help us to see that dual aspect of the covenant of the salt. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.